There were moments. You walked away from what everyone else ran toward. You closed doors others would have begged to open. You said no when the crowd was screaming yes. They called you foolish, too extreme, too intense, too different. But heaven was watching. Heaven was taking notes. What they saw as weakness, God saw as worship. What looked like loss was actually your greatest act of obedience. You weren't losing. You were being measured, and every time you chose the narrow path, you were being weighed for reward. You felt alone, but you were never abandoned, because those who renounce for God are never left empty-handed. And today, heaven responds, not with noise, but with glory. This message is not just encouragement, it's confirmation, proof that your sacrifice had eternal weight. Evidence that your quiet surrender wasn't forgotten, it was counted. You didn't miss out, you were being set apart. And now, you're about to see what only the chosen ones ever see, the invisible reward for those who walked away from what they could have had, because they wanted what only God could give. Welcome, this is sacred ground. Stay until the end, because your spirit is about to receive what your heart has been waiting for. And if this message already resonates with you, if you feel the weight of these words in your chest, leave a comment with 99 below, because 99 is the number of the ones he left behind to find the one who never stopped obeying. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's begin this divine confirmation together. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verses 1 to 5. But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, having a form of godliness but denying its power. There is a system. It's loud, it's fast, it rewards the surface. It celebrates those who build castles on sand and punishes those who dig for rock. This system feeds the ego. It whispers, take the shortcut, do what works. Don't worry about integrity, just win. And yet, you paused. While the masses sprinted into the spotlight, you stepped back into the secret place. While others crafted an image, you cultivated a heart. You didn't chase applause, you chased presence. You didn't invest in the temporary, you gave up gold for glory. Let's be honest, it would have been easier to blend in, to adapt, to say what they say, post what they post, live how they live. But something inside you whispered, this is not who you are. And louder still, this is not who I am. You said no to the system, not just once, but over and over, in silence, in tears, in private moments that no one applauded, but heaven recorded. And what did that no cost you? Connections, opportunities, maybe even comfort. You walked away from rooms where you could have been praised because you refused to be polluted. But what if I told you, every door you walked away from was God's way of keeping you from entering a trap? What if your delay was actually His protection? What if the applause you never received was heaven saying, not yet, I'm still preparing a stage that won't collapse under the weight of your calling? And here's the part they don't tell you. The system rewards fast, but the kingdom rewards faithfully, and faithfully always outlasts fast. Others looked successful instantly, but what they built in speed, you're building in substance. They posted it, you prayed it, they performed it. You lived it, and while they were being seen, you were being sealed. Because here's the mystery. Every no to the world is a yes in heaven's courtroom. And your record is not written on paper. It's engraved in eternity. Your no to pride became a yes to divine promotion. Your no to compromise became a yes to uncommon favor. Your no to selling your soul became a yes to inheriting something that can't be bought. You said no to what glittered. So now, heaven trusts you with what glows, and the enemy hates it, because every time he offered you a counterfeit, you walked away. And every walk away became a weapon. Your obedience didn't make headlines. but it made hell tremble. And that's why your life has felt like a battlefield. Because you're not just different. You're dangerous to the system you refuse to bow to. So now, the question is, if every silent sacrifice was a key, what door is about to open? Stay with me. Because what's coming next is not just a reward, it's a reversal. And it's closer than you think. The shift has already begun. Let's go deeper. They didn't see the struggle. They didn't hear the no you whispered through trembling lips. They didn't watch you walk away from what your flesh wanted, just to protect what your spirit carried. But God did. You were never alone in that room. Never unnoticed in that season. While the world ignored your pain, heaven was collecting evidence. Every tear was counted. Every fast you didn't post about. Every lonely night when obedience cost you everything was recorded. Not in shame, but in honor. Let's pause here, because someone needs to hear this. God did not overlook you. He didn't miss a single sigh, and the silence you thought was failure was actually a signal to heaven. See, in the kingdom, silence speaks, and obedience in the dark echoes louder in heaven than any public display in the light. They didn't see you break down after saying no. They didn't see you delete the message. They didn't see you let go of the opportunity that everyone said was God opening a door. But deep down, you knew it came with a price your soul couldn't afford. They saw peace on your face. But God saw the war in your spirit, and He called it worship, because obedience that costs nothing means nothing. But obedience that breaks you builds something in heaven that can't be shaken. Let me tell you this. Angels don't respond to noise. They respond to alignment. And every time you said yes to God in private, you were aligning with the eternal. You thought no one noticed. You thought your season of silence was wasted. But the silence was sacred. It wasn't punishment. It was proof that your foundation wasn't built on applause. It was built on trust. And now, the courtroom of heaven is about to move. Not because you shouted loud, but because you stood still when it mattered. Heaven is a just realm. It never forgets obedience. It never ignores sacrifice. And when the time is right, it repays. That time is not one day. It's not maybe someday. It's now. Because God doesn't rush reward. He protects it. And when the reward comes for those who obeyed in secret, it comes wrapped in peace, clothed in permanence, and sealed with power. But let me leave you with this, before we go any further. What if what's been delayed was never denial? What if the silence you endured was actually a signal of what's about to be revealed? Because sometimes, before heaven releases the reward, it lets the room grow quiet, so that when the door opens, only those who stayed faithful hear it swing. And right now, it's swinging. Are you ready for what's on the other side? Because, in the next moments, you'll see why heaven never needed to shout. When it was already writing your name in glory. Let's move forward. Something is about to break. To them, you looked like you were falling behind. You weren't climbing ladders. You weren't chasing the spotlight. You weren't networking your way into rooms. And so they said, "You're missing out. You're wasting time. You're too holy for your own good." But what they didn't understand is that you were planting every missed opportunity was a seed. Every time you chose purity over popularity, seed. Every time you chose truth over trends, seed. Every time you gave instead of taking, served instead of shining, obeyed instead of controlling, seed. You were never falling behind. You were falling into alignment. You didn't lose. You invested. And what you invested in wasn't visible, but it was valuable. Because in the kingdom, The greatest things are always underground first. While others built towers overnight, you were digging roots. And now, the silence is cracking. The ground is trembling. Something is breaking the surface. The seed has remembered the soil, and it's bringing forth a fruit that this world cannot copy. Because what you sowed in tears is returning as peace. What you sowed in obscurity is returning as favor. What you sowed in secret is returning as inheritance. Make no mistake, the enemy tried to convince you you were being punished. But the Spirit whispers, you are being positioned, because the Father doesn't waste sacrifice. He banks it. He stores it in places where rust can't decay, where moths can't devour, where thieves can't reach. And that storage is about to be unlocked. The world rewards what is loud, but heaven rewards what is lasting. And here's the mystery. Some harvests come fast, but the most dangerous ones, the ones that shift nations, heal bloodlines, and break generational chains, take time to mature. And now, the wait is over. You're not entering reward. You're entering recompense because you didn't just resist the system. You partnered with eternity, and eternity always pays back, with interest. Let that settle deep in your spirit. You didn't bury your purpose. You planted it, and anything planted in obedience will rise in power. You may have walked through seasons where nothing bloomed, but the roots were growing stronger beneath the surface. And now, what was invisible will be undeniable. But listen closely before we move on. Not everyone will understand your bloom. Some will be confused. Some will question how you're suddenly stepping into things they tried to earn. But you waited to receive, and that's because this isn't reward from men. This is an answer from heaven's soil. So brace yourself. The wind is changing, the sky is opening, the season is shifting, but what's coming next won't just bless you, it will confirm who you are. Ready? Because the fourth revelation is where the tables turn. Let's go. They offered shortcuts. You chose the slow road. They offered applause. You chose alignment. They offered a platform. But you were building an altar, and because of that choice, you now carry what can't be bought, borrowed, or branded. You carry weight. Not the weight of performance, but the weight of glory. You didn't trade your identity for attention. You didn't rewrite your convictions to fit their version of success. And that silence you endured? It wasn't rejection. It was refinement. Because heaven only anoints what remains pure under pressure. And you remained. You said no when it was lonely. You said no when it hurt. You said no when yes would have made you visible, but invisible to God. And now, you carry something rare, sacred, untouchable, non-negotiable. Your peace isn't random. It's evidence. Evidence that heaven trusts you, because you didn't compromise to be seen. You were chosen to carry what others forfeited. Let that sink. And you're carrying influence that isn't noisy, but when you speak, atmospheres shift. You're walking in favor that isn't flashy, but doors open that no man can shut. You're moving with authority that doesn't need a title, because heaven has already named you. And here's the secret. People chase what's already chasing you. They hustle for what's being added to you in silence. They bend their morals to get it. But you guarded your soul, and God granted the treasure. Because you didn't compromise, your favor is clean, your influence is untainted, your blessings come with no sorrow attached. Proverbs says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow to it." Proverbs 10:22. That's what you're living in now. Blessings with no hidden contracts, favor with no spiritual debt, open doors that don't lead to cages. You don't have to chase the room, because you are the room. The presence you carry is a magnet to what's divine, and the purity of your yes has created a fragrance the world can't ignore. Let me ask you this. What if the delay you felt wasn't denial, but God preserving your power from pollution? Because some treasures aren't buried, they're protected, and now You've been approved to access what's been withheld from many. This is why the enemy fought you so hard. Not for where you were, but for what you were carrying. He knew your integrity would outlast his temptation. And now, he's too late. You survived the wilderness. You endured the silence. You passed the test. And now, you carry the crown. But listen, there's one more key. One final revelation. And it's the reason why everything is about to make sense. Because what's coming next is not just for you, it's for every generation watching your example. Let's go deeper. The final door is about to open. There is a realm, unseen by the eye, but fully known in the spirit. A realm where heaven writes what earth forgets, where obedience becomes weight, where tears become oil, where silence becomes fire. You, yes you, are part of the remnant, the hidden ones, the ones who didn't just confess Christ, but clung to him when it cost everything. When the world bowed to trends, you held the line. When compromise screamed, you whispered, "I'm not for sale." And no one applauded. No one noticed. But heaven did, because this message isn't for everyone. It's for the few, the consecrated, the wrestlers, the quiet warriors who bled in the dark but kept their robes unstained. This is for those who laid down dreams but picked up destiny, for those who lost followers but gained fire, for those who chose the altar instead of the algorithm. You didn't build your life on visibility. You built it on verity, truth, holiness, things the world discarded, but heaven crowns. And now, the time of hiddenness is ending. The hour of unveiling is near. There is a crown, not made of gold, not forged by men, but formed in the fires of faithfulness. An invisible crown placed not on your head for show, but on your spirit for impact. You are not just seen, you are sealed. Because God doesn't crown the popular. He crowns the proven. And you didn't just survive, you stayed pure. And that is your greatest wealth. Let the world chase applause. Let them chase crowns that rust. You've received something more rare, a divine marking, the mark of one who didn't quit, didn't blend in, didn't sell out. And now, heaven's reward has recognized your resistance. There is a divine reversal taking place, a sacred shifting of seasons. The first are becoming last, and the last are about to rise, not for spotlight, but for assignment, not for platform, but for power. This crown isn't for decoration, it's for demonstration, because now, the world will see what heaven always knew, that your silence had strength, that your integrity had weight, that your obedience had currency, and God is about to spend it. But before the final moment arrives, there's one more truth you must hear, a revelation that seals the journey, a word that connects all the pieces. Stay with me, because what's coming next will change how you see everything. You didn't just let go of things. You let go of idols. You didn't just walk away. You walked toward destiny. And now, all of heaven stands to witness what few dared to believe. Your hidden obedience is birthing visible glory. This video was never just content. It was a confirmation. Divinely timed, supernaturally aligned. You didn't stumble upon this. You were summoned to it, because God is sending a clear message. I saw every time you said no. I saw every time you stayed silent. I saw every tear that no one else caught. And now, I reward in public what you sacrificed in private. The shift is happening. The reversal has begun. What was invisible is becoming undeniable. You were never behind. You were being preserved for a moment like this, and here it is. This is that moment. This is the sound of breakthrough, the echo of heaven confirming you were right to believe, because your yes didn't just change your path, it changed your legacy. The crown isn't coming. It's already been placed. Now you walk in it. You speak from it.